All right, everyone. Welcome to another Relate Well with Dr. Rick Marks. It is so good to have you here joining me today. And I hope you've had a good day. It's late afternoon on April 26th, I believe it is, on Tuesday. And so my hope is that you will that you've had a good day and that you'll find this short time together of value to you. So we are actually streaming on Facebook Live, a number of pages on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Instagram. So I got my Facebook and YouTube camera here. I got my Instagram camera right there, and so we're streaming live on a number of formats all at the same time. Now, here's what I would request of you, the listener. If there's something you'd like to say, if there's a question you have or a statement that you have, please, I'll be monitoring the comment sections on these platforms. Go ahead, ask a question, say hello. All right. Let me know you're out there. Love to have you guys that aren't following us. Go ahead and follow me on the Dr. Rick Marks on Facebook. Of course, Relate Well with Dr. Rick Marks on YouTube and Instagram. You'll see me there as well as Relate Well, Dr. Rick Marks. And so we're here on a regular basis to provide insights and information, help you become the best version of you that you can be. If you have Facebook, if you are on Facebook, tonight at 7 o'clock Eastern Time, tonight at 7 o'clock Eastern Time, I will be doing a free seminar for 1 hour, 7 to 8, on what understanding the addictive personality. What is an addictive personality? So that's tonight. If you go to the Facebook events page for tonight, you'll see the event listed there. The Zoom link is actually in that page on the Facebook event. So go there. If you want to go to the Rick Marks Facebook page, you'll find you'll find a link to the event there. The Zoom link is there. Just copy paste that. I think you can hyperlink from that to Zoom. All right. You know, all humans have dignity. All humans have dignity. And some of the greatest violations in relationships are violations of dignity. We'll talk more about what are the traits of dignity that all humans have. Today, I really want to talk about what are the things that we do to violate our own dignity. Now, dignity is the ability to understand that all humans deserve respect. All humans deserve respect. And because all humans exist and all humans deserve to be deserve respect. And we define respect this way: you treat people with dignity. Just because I might respect you as an individual, that doesn't mean I can't treat you with dignity. You get the difference? I can treat someone with dignity, though I may not respect them as a person. All right. And so we believe that respect is really defined by how you treat someone. All right. Let's think about it this way: even people on death row are executed with dignity. With dignity. Why? Because it's still a life, it's still a person. And violations of dignity are very harmful. What you're really saying is you're better than another person, that you have more meaning, that you're morally superior. This is why you may show contempt for people. To show contempt for someone, to call them names, is a violation of their dignity. I think mostly when we do those things, I think those things actually reveal more of a lack of our own dignity, our own sense of well being. And so I want to talk about some temptations to violate your own dignity, things that happen that actually tear down your own sense of dignity, your own sense of value, your own sense of worth. All right. And because, see, there's Bible passages that said you love your neighbors yourself. A husband who loves his wife loves himself. Let's be honest, folks. You can't love someone well if you don't love yourself well. If you're addicted to alcohol or drugs or those kind of things, you may think it feels good, and it does on some level. I admit that. in terms of the dopamine experience. But in the end, you're actually violating your own dignity as a human. You're tearing down your own value and worth. The evil side of the addiction is you just don't care. You just don't care. You're even violating your own dignity. So you're turning to objects or processes to deal with human relationships. Healthy, mature people who value themselves don't turn to objects or processes to deal with pain. They turn to relationships to deal with pain. Addictions are a form of attachment disorder. Rather than deal with your emotional issues, you turn to an object or a process to deal with it. When in reality, humans were designed to turn to people to deal with relationships. We'll talk more about that as we talk about the addictive personality later tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern time. All right. Now, what are some violations of dignity? You're violating your own dignity. Here we go. All right. One, we talk about addictions. Number two is when you're in a conversation with someone or you're arguing with someone and they keep kind of bait you, right? They're trying to rope you in and you allow yourself to be roped in. You allow yourself to be manipulated. You allow yourself to be controlled. You allow yourself to go from responding to reacting. You see, they always say, don't take the bait. All right. When someone's trying to hook you, don't take the hook. But when you take the hook, you've basically made yourself weak. You've made yourself powerless. You've put this person over above you. You've given them power over you. When you take the bait, you've given up your sense of self-control. You've given up your sense of self-worth and self-confidence in that moment. You see, self-respecting people recognize when someone's trying to manipulate them, trying to rope them in, trying to control them. And they're able to say, no, I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to allow that to happen to me. So one is don't get roped in. Don't take the bait. Don't allow others to manipulate or control you. All right. And a second one, a way that we violate our own value and worth and our own dignity is when we don't take responsibility for our choices. We deflect, we blame, or you make excuses. All right. We blame this person or blame that or blame our history or blame our parents for a bad childhood for choices you made 30 years down the road. You know, folks, I grew up in a broken home where there's abuse and craziness. The bottom line is I am not to blame for the things that happened to me as a kid. But I cannot live my life. Well, I could if I wanted to be honest about that. But how unhealthy it would be to live my life blaming my dad for all those things. Well, my dad's been dead 38 years. No, actually, those are choices that I am making today on my own. You see, I learned in my journey of healing, not just as a psychologist and a minister, but also through personal development programs that I went to. It's one thing to blame others, another thing to take responsibility today. Mature people take responsibility for their choices. Mature people take responsibility. They don't blame. They don't shift the responsibility to someone else. They own their choices because people of dignity own their choices. They don't deflect. They don't blame. They don't shirk responsibility. They take responsibility. You know, one of the great things that you can always do in your relationships, if you've done something to hurt someone, maybe you said a crossword, or maybe you spoke out of line, or maybe you did something unintentional, but it still caused pain. All you really do is just own it. Say, you know what? I didn't realize when I said that you took it that way. Would you forgive me? Because I would never want to send you the message that I don't care about you. That's mature. That's a person who has their own dignity intact. To blame, to deflect, just shows our immaturity. It shows our lack of our own dignity, you see. And so one, you don't allow yourself to get roped into things, don't deflect responsibility. Another way that people tend to show a lack of dignity for themselves is they avoid conflict. They don't want to talk about things. They don't stand up for themselves. So they'll shut down, they'll stonewall, they'll sulk. All right. They'll walk away. I'm not talking to you. Don't you tell me what to do. I'm not listening to you anymore. No, I'm not going to have a conversation about this. So you avoid conflict. Folks, avoiding conflict doesn't solve problems. It actually perpetuates them. It prolongs them. You see, people who have self-respect speak up for themselves with goodwill and respect. They don't avoid conflict. They deal with conflict, but they deal with conflict with goodwill and respect. But they want their integrity intact, and they want to preserve the integrity of the relationship. I think it's one of the biggest things that, if you could get anything out of my talk today, is this: people with integrity, even in conflict, will always seek to preserve the relationship. They don't allow a problem to be more important than a relationship. People with dignity value the relationship over the problem. And because they value relationship over problem, they'll keep us intact. That's my word for it. They'll keep the sense of usness intact, and then us can deal with an issue. Immature people who lack their own sense of dignity and self-respect, well, they'll let a problem destroy a relationship because they want to win. They want to be right. I'm right, you're wrong. And it's okay. Forcing agreement on an issue that's not going to have any agreement over, it just shows a lack of maturity. But it basically says this: I don't value the relationship. I value winning an argument. And so avoiding conflict is a trend that it's a trend that says, I don't really value me. I don't value standing up for who I am. I don't value standing up for the relationship. So another way that people violate their own sense of dignity, their own sense of self-respect, is by avoiding conflict. Another one is, okay, all right, you know what? Fine, this always happens to me. I know you aren't listening to me because y'all don't care. I'm doing the next one. It's acting like you're a victim. This always happens to me. Nobody really cares about me. You know what? I don't want to talk about this anymore. Every time I do this, it just fails. Victim, 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 victim. You act like a victim. You act like a martyr. When you act like a victim, when you act like a martyr, I do this all the time for everybody else, but no one ever does this for me. You're really violating your own sense of self-respect, your own value and worth, your own dignity. Take responsibility. Don't act like a victim. Make decisions and take responsibility for the decisions you make as well. You see, don't always assume that you're a victim. To assume that you are a victim would imply that the other person is an offender. Could be that you acting like a victim is just a form of what Dr. Lloyd Gordon referred to as dirty fighting. And Relate Well, we call it fighting with ill will. So another one is, acting like you're a victim. Another way that we really violate our dignity is when you have a posture of being unteachable. I'm right, you're wrong. I know, you don't know. I'm smarter than you. I know more than you. We talk about this a lot and Relate Well around the realm of knowledge, that our realm of knowledge is so minute, based on all the knowledge that exists in the world. And yet, a sign of maturity is being teachable. I always told my kids growing up, you always tell a mature person they're teachable. An immature person isn't. There's an old Jewish proverb that says that wise men accept rebuke. Well, why do wise men accept rebuke? Because wise men know they know there's a lot of things they don't know they don't know. And because they know there's a lot of things they don't know they choose to stay teachable. You never learn by talking. You learn by listening. And when you're teachable, then you're open to possibility. See, being teachable creates possibility. But if you're not teachable, nothing's really possible for your life. Well, just more of the same of what you're doing. It would, To be teachable is to live in the world of the unknown. Maybe you don't know that you have an addiction. Maybe you don't know that you don't know you're controlling. Maybe you don't know you're manipulative. Maybe you don't know, fill in the blank. But a person who's not teachable can never admit those things, and thus they'll always be harming themselves and others because they're not willing to admit those character defects. To live a life of being teachable, which respects one's dignity and value and worth, also is to live a life of humility. That's right. It's to live a life of humility, because pride will keep you from being teachable, where humility opens the doorway to become teachable, which means I can learn some things. And when I learn those things, that I can grow because increase my realm of knowledge. Like I didn't know I was manipulative in the early years of my marriage. I didn't know I was passively aggressive. Well, by the way, my wife knew. She saw those things in me, but I didn't know why. I wasn't teachable in those early days. But when you're not teachable, you're discounting your own value, own value. You're discounting your own worth. Always stay teachable. To stay teachable means you're open to feedback. That's right. To stay teachable, you're open to feedback. To stay teachable, you're open to new information. To stay teachable, you're open to seeing someone else's perspective of an issue, not just your perspective. To stay teachable means I'm willing to look at an issue from a different lens. To stay teachable would mean to admit when I'm wrong and that another person is more right than I am. To stay teachable opens the doorway for growth, maturity, greater learnings and knowledge. To stay teachable is a very powerful way to live life because it validates one's dignity. To be unteachable is to harm your own dignity and worth. Another way that we violate our own sense of respect and dignity is by gossiping. Gossiping. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. I think it speaks for itself. Gossiping. Talking bad about other people to make you feel better, spreading rumors through, we need to pray for sister or brother so-and-so. That's just gossiping. When you gossip, you actually reveal more about your own character than you do someone else's character. All right. And so another way is we engage in gossiping. And another way that we violate our dignity, it kind of links back to addictions, is we engage in relationships where there's really not true intimacy, but a false intimacy, a false sense of love, a false sense of connection. Now, I say I love you and I care about you, but yet you're critical and judgmental. You say you value this person, but yet you're quick to tear them down. You're quick to invalidate them. You're quick to negate them. You also, when someone's critical towards you or judges you, you hear what they have to say and you own it without questioning whether they may be right or not. See, one of the things about true intimacy is you don't lose your own mind. You own your own mind. You speak up for yourself with goodwill and respect. But if someone says, hey, I think you're this, you're willing to think about that. But you're also willing to say, you know what? I thanks for sharing that. I'll ponder it. But I don't think that I am. Because true intimacy requires wanting to know another person, but it also requires you wanting to be known, and you do it out of care, motivation, right? We do it because of care. But you cannot live that way well if you don't love and respect yourself. Because to the degree you don't love and respect yourself, you can't enter into truly healthy, intimate relationship. You see, and so that's another violation. And I think the last one I want to talk about here is when you live life in a way that gives you a false sense of security. So you're staying with someone who abuses you. You're staying with someone who harms you. You stay with someone who puts you down, but you stay in the relationship. Why? Because, as I say, that bad love's still better than no love. It gives you a sense of security that someone loves you, But the reality is they don't love you. Love doesn't treat people that way. But you have a sense of security. Well, at least there's somebody here. You see, I'm fat and white haired now. Who's going to want me? So I'll stay in this. And I go, but they love me. That person doesn't love you. They don't care about you. That's why they treat you the way they do. Folks, in order to live life with dignity, you've got to learn to love and respect yourself. And when you learn to love and respect yourself, you will love others well. And in my mind, in my journey, and this is my pastor cap here, not my psychologist cap, for me personally, in my own journey of healing, I found that the greatest relationship I can have intimately with Abba Father, the fatherhood of God, as he revealed to me many years ago, I'm the dad you could never have, son. And I realized in that relationship with him, I am lovable and I am good enough and I matter. The psalmist says of it, how marvelous are your thoughts of me, O Lord. There's so many, I can't count them as the grains of sand. See, I would have these negative thoughts about myself. You're not good enough. I'm inferior. I'm inadequate. I'll never measure up. That's the kind of stuff I heard growing up, particularly from my stepmother. But my Abba Father doesn't think those things about me. How marvelous are your thoughts? How wondrous are your thoughts, depending on the translation. And yet I can find myself to these negative thoughts. And when I lived out of those negative thoughts, I violated my value and worth that he has placed on me. That's right. The cross of Christ says I have value. It says I have worth. It says I matter. When I started to root my value and worth, my dignity there, then I started to respect myself more. I spoke up for myself with goodwill, in respectful ways, in caring ways. I began to live life more out of humility than pride, even a sense of false pride. Folks, resist the temptation, resist the need to destroy your dignity, to devalue yourself. A husband who loves his wife loves God. It's not what the Apostle Paul wrote. He wrote, a husband who loves his wife loves himself. You can't love another person well until you learn to love and respect yourself well. And in my mind, the best way to do that is accept that you're a son and a daughter to a very loving Father in heaven, and that he intends to love you well, not just through his Spirit, but also through others. Allow yourself to be loved and make sure you love, because healthy love is able to not just give or receive, to give, but it's also able to receive. It can receive love just as much as it gives away. And when we learn to value our own respect, when we learn to respect ourselves, when we learn to value our own inherent dignity, you will find yourself walking very powerfully in humility, with goodwill and respect and empathy across most of your life. That's what I found in my own journey. And it's the essence of our Relate Well curriculum and the Relate Well process. You learn more about that at relatewell.us. That's relatewell.us. But for our time right now, why don't you, the rest is eating, do one thing that encourages you to be the best version of yourself. Remember, if you're a Christian particularly, you're already his son. For those that are not, you can be. But either way, we were created by him. And he has said we have value and worth. May we treat everyone with dignity. And in my mind, that means you treat them with goodwill, you treat them with respect, and you treat them in caring ways. And you can't do that without humility. And when you learn to live that way as a way of being, that means you've learned to live that way for yourself. It's one thing to give grace, but give grace to yourself as well. We need to forgive others, but you need to forgive yourself as well. If you've been forgiven, let it go, move on. God's forgiven you. Quit beating yourself up. Living out of guilt and shame doesn't do anybody any well. Romans 8:1, no condemnation to them in Christ Jesus. Why doesn't he condemn you? Folks, he doesn't need to condemn you. Why? You're doing a better job at it yourself. Why would he? All right, folks, this is Dr. Rick Marks, another Relate Well with Dr. Rick. Have a great evening. See you later this week. Take care, everybody.